The Shawshank Redemption is one of those films you can watch a million times and still find something new to appreciate. It's a timeless masterpiece, and I'd even recommend giving it a rewatch at least once a year. Today, we're going to break down a pivotal scene that truly hammers home the film's core themes of growth, hope, and self-forgiveness. For that, I bring you to the end of the film, Red's third and final parole hearing. But before we get into that, let's do a quick recap in case it's been a while since you've last watched The Shawshank Redemption or you haven't seen it at all.
Why'd you do it?
I didn't, since you asked.
You gonna fit right in. Everybody in here is innocent. Did you know that? Haywood, what you in here for?
Didn't do it. Lawyer me.
So, Andy Dufresne, played by Tim Robbins, is sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms in prison for the murder of his wife and her lover. While inside Shawshank, he befriends Red, played by Morgan Freeman, and together they navigate the brutality of prison life, adapt, and help each other survive over the next 2 decades. If you're wondering what Red did to get into prison, it isn't actually explained in the movie, but it is in the novel. Now, I'm not going to say what it is here because for the reasons it was removed in the movie, they feared that it would bring down the character and how people saw him. And to be honest with you, when I found out what he actually did, it kind of did do it a little bit. So for the sake of the movie itself, I'm going to leave it as the way that they have it and not really mention it exactly. But you can Google it if you're interested. Andy, a former banker, is sharp, strategic, and always thinking a big picture. Now, while Andy is our main protagonist, for this video, we're focusing on Red. And he's level-headed, calm, fiercely loyal, and incredibly resourceful. So much so that he's known as the guy who can get anything inside the Shawshank. How does he do it? That's never fully explained, but it doesn't need to be. The important thing is that he can. By the time we watch the scene in question, Andy has already escaped and is a free man. It wouldn't have been possible for him to take Red with him, but their bond is undeniable.
Go ahead and open it. I had to go through one of your competitors. I hope you don't mind. I wanted to be a surprise.
Their friendship grows stronger throughout the entire film, with Red even admitting in voiceover that he liked Andy from the start.
I could see why some of the boys took him for snobby. He had a quiet way about him. A walk and a talk that just wasn't normal around here. Yeah, I think it would be fair to say I liked Andy from the start.
From the moment Andy enters Shawshank, quiet, reserved, Red takes note of him, even betting on whether he'll cry on his first night. He doesn't, by the way. In fact, he doesn't even make a sound. Eventually, Andy approaches Red with an unusual request. He wants a rock hammer, which, Red being the man that can, he delivers. From there, Andy secures beers for the crew by doing a favor for a guard and even offers to teach Red how to play chess. At one point, Red asks Andy why he did what he did. It's clear that Red is trying to come to terms with his own crimes and the reasoning behind his actions. But when Andy simply responds,
I'm innocent, Red. Just like everybody else here.
you can see the disappointment in Red's face. He bluntly proclaims himself as the only guilty man in Shawshank, adding to that kind of hopelessness that's always riding around in Red. You see, Red wrestles with hope throughout the entire movie. He wants to believe, but when their friend Brooks is released on parole, only to take his own life, Red's faith in the outside world begins to slip away, and his ideas of whether or not he should stay here or even be out there gets kind of shaken up. Andy, however, remains determined throughout. He's even able to secure funding and renovates the prison library and gives Red a job. Their friendship solidified, and before Andy escapes, he tells Red to find something he's hidden away for him when he gets out. And with that, let's break down the scenes that showcase Red's redemption. The scene opens with a heavy sound of metal doors sliding open. A dark corridor stretches before us, a small window at the end, a sliver of light in an otherwise bleak space. This framing repeats itself 3 times throughout the movie, each one marking a different stage in Red's journey. The first Red is eager and uncertain. He shuffles in spot, sits rather quickly when asked to, and delivers a rehearsed speech, what seems like maybe for the first time. He says the right words, but even he doesn't seem convinced. The camera pushes in rapidly, reflecting his own realization that he's just going through the motions. Throughout the film, hope has never been Red's strong suit, and it's moments like this that you see why.
I learned my lesson. I can honestly say that I'm a changed man. And I'm no longer a danger to society. That's God's honest truth.
The second time, Red is more confident, even smiling. But as the camera dollies in once more, the outcome is the same. The parole board isn't buying it, Red hasn't changed, and the scene mirrors the first one, reinforcing that he may be comfortable in the situation, but he hasn't learned from the situation. Now, on the first watch, this scene might not stand out as particularly special, but on a rewatch, knowing what's coming, it feels like a turning point, a light at the end of the tunnel after years and years of hardship. Notice how the first two hearings have a gatekeeper or a guard or just, someone's head representing a blockade in the front of the window, something that will block Red's path to freedom, essentially. This time, though, no one stands in the way. A subtle but powerful visual cue. The framing has shifted. Instead of 5 older white men lined up behind a desk, we now see 4 men and a woman. 2 of the men are positioned at the opposite sides of the tables. This changes the balance of power. In the first 2 hearings, Red sits across from authoritarian figures. Here, it's almost as if he's sitting with them, an equal, if you will, rather than an outsider seeking approval. As Red takes his seat once more and we follow him down, something else has changed. In the first hearing, there's no light really on him. He's unaware, lacking true understanding. The second time, some light reaches his lower half. He's beginning to see things more clearly, but he's still not quite ready. By the third time, he's fully illuminated, symbolizing his realization. The same speech won't work again. When the parole board asks if he's rehabilitated, Red doesn't rush to answer like he has the other times before. The camera, also reflecting this, takes its time, waiting to dolly in as Red gathers his thoughts. And then, for the first time, he speaks his truth. He doesn't know what they want to hear, so he stops trying to perform and instead gives them something real, something raw and earnest from his heart about how he feels about everything he's just lived through.
There's not a day goes by I don't feel regret. Not because I'm in here, because you think I should. I look back on the way I was then. A young, stupid kid who committed that terrible crime. I want to talk to him. I want to try to talk some sense to him. Tell him the way things are. But I can't. That kid's long gone, and this old man is all that's left. I gotta live with that.
This moment is raw, honest, and for the first time, it actually works. Red is granted parole. And here's the thing. His realization doesn't erase his past. It doesn't undo what he did. He took lives, and that weight will never leave him. In a way, that guilt is a prison of its own. But in accepting his past, he puts himself in a position to live a real life outside. I love this moment. It really kind of felt more like a play to me. I don't like plays really, but the way and how this seems like we followed him to his mark, almost like a spotlight trailing our lead, which is what he is, and he basically sits down into a stage light ready to give his monologue to the audience. Now a free man, Red struggles to adjust to life outside prison walls, which is to be expected. He's 40 years deep in prison life. He's placed in the same living space as his friend, Brooks. Sees the words carved into the threshold Brooks left behind just before he took his own life. Every routine, every mundane task mirrors Brooks' post-prison life identically. Every slow dolly on to Red's, reflecting the slow burial of his life as it creepily covers him and nearly completely engulfs him. By this point, luckily, he remembers what Andy said to him. Red follows Andy's instructions and finds his hidden treasure, a letter of hope. The Shawshank Redemption is a story about hope, resilience, and the quiet defiance of believing in something better. Andy never wavers in his determination. Red, on the other hand, starts with fire but loses it over time, only for Andy to help him reignite it. This film reminds us that even in the darkest times, there's a path forward. Redemption isn't about erasing the past, it's about facing it, learning from it, and choosing to move forward. And last but certainly not least, having a friend to go through all these times is a priceless addition. And that's it for the video. If you enjoyed, like, comment, subscribe, share this out with someone who would love it. And until next time, what do you recommend?